And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We're asking, is this the beginning of the end for the FIA? At least their boss, Mohammed Ben Salem. Yes, he has, let's just say he's been in the news recently with key people, 3 now, leaving the FIA. That Toto Wolff controversy, which we reported to just, around Christmas time. We're also seeing, is the FIA boss good for F1? We'll be looking at that as we look at other unhappy people other than Tim Goss, who's recently left the FIA. And is friction healthy? Well, that's something Ben Salem has come out and pretty much said, yes, it is. But let's get into it. So the beginning of the end, is it for the FIA? Well, we've got Tim Goss, a leading engineer, pretty much quits the FIA. The third senior person to quit the FIA. This is from Andrew Benson on the BBC. And it essentially says, leading figure Tim Goss has left his role as the single-seater technical director of motorsport's governing body, a BBC Sport has revealed. Now, Goss, who is expected to quit to join a Formula One team, he's the third key figure in the last month. His resignation follows that of director Steve Nielsen and the departure of the head of the FIA's Commission for Women, Deborah Mayer. Nielsen will be replaced by Tim Mallion. I've probably got that name wrong. I'm sorry, Tim. And the FIA safety director. He has been since 2021, but the FIA have not made an appointment to replace Goss yet. I guess it's too new. FIA single-seater director Nicholas Tobias said, "We are disappointed to lose a person of Tim's calibre from the organisation. Tim has played a major part in the technical department and has always operated at the highest level." Now, he says, "We understand that his career is taking a new direction going forward, and we support and respect his desire to pursue another path." Very nice. So an FIA statement quoted Goss as saying, "I believe the organisation is on a firm footing in terms of regard of technical expertise for the tasks which lie ahead, particularly the introduction of the 2026 regulations." Now, Goss is 60 years old, is a respected engineer who had a long year with McLaren, rising to become their technical director between 2014 and 2018. Okay, I'm looking at that and thinking, not McLaren's best years, but moving on. He was removed from his post as a result of a restructure brought about by the team's fall from competitiveness and later joined the FIA. So, who is Tim Mallion? Well, he joined the FIA in 2019 as head of research and had formerly worked as chief engineer for BMW's Formula E. But that's the guy that's going. So, what will F1 then? This is the important thing here. What's F1 going to make of this upheaval? Now, as we say, losing 3 senior figures in such a short space of time, it says here, is not a good look for the FIA. Absolutely. And senior figures within the sport have basically told the BBC that the organisation is a total mess. The FIA is yet to comment on Mayer's departure, but it said she decided not to reapply for her position after her term came to an end. Now, Nielsen, a highly respected figure within F1, 3 decades of experience in sporting management, left because he believed the FIA was not willing to make changes. He felt they were required to make its race control operations fit for purpose, not the other way around. Now, sources close to the FIA told BBC Sport Goss had similar frustrations with the internal operations of the FIA as Nielsen, as well as unhappiness over the process of creating the new technical rules that are going to be issued in Formula One in 2026. These will, as you may or may not know, introduce new style hybrid engines which have a greater proportion of power by the electric motor and new aerodynamic rules. Now, although the 3 departures, they differ in nature, it says, the turmoil within the FIA is going to raise further questions about the leadership of Mohammed Ben Salem, who has been basically embroiled in a series of controversies since being elected in 2021. That's something we never really saw of Jean Todt, but this guy has. Oh, to be fair, though, to Ben, he has been a lot more media-centric, let's say. He's been a lot more open to giving out his opinion, a la Max Mosley, where I think Jean Todt, not really. You'd hardly know he was there. But in some ways, I think that's a good thing for the FIA, particularly when it comes to Formula One. The last month, the FIA was undermined by commercial rights holders F1 and all the F1 teams. As we know, it launched a compliance investigation into Mercedes F1 boss Toto Wolff and his wife, Susie, and who's the director of the F1 Academy for young female racers. And the move caused widespread dismay within Formula One, where senior figures are uncomfortable about Ben Salem but prefer to keep their counsel in public. The FIA announced the compliance inquiry in the wake of a magazine, yes, a magazine report. A lot of people were like, where's the evidence? That had raised the issue of a potential conflict of interest, but Mercedes and F1 pretty much completely rejected that. So, I mean, we've got as we ask, is this guy, you know, is he good for Formula One? He might be good for the FIA, but what I kind of guessed, but I had it confirmed when looking into all these stories, is that most of the FIA's money comes from Formula One. So it's all about the money, I guess. And this was on the 23rd of December as an unhappy FIA sporting director, Nielsen, quit his job, leaving F1 drivers dismayed. And this was from crash.net, but it was all over the place. Nielsen resigned from his job from the BBC report. He started his role in only January 2023. So he didn't even last a year by the time he finished, and was tasked with improving race control, potentially because of the controversies of how 2021 ended, being maybe one reason as to why. But he quit after less than a year due to being unhappy, according to the BBC. He's basically said, as we said, the FIA was not willing to implement changes that Nielsen recommended to improvise its race control operation, the report states. And as we know, he'd previously worked with a number of F1 teams. Nielsen did, Benetton, Renault and Williams, and he then worked for Formula One after its takeover by Liberty Media. And F1 drivers and teams were supportive of him being appointed, and they were later to be said dismayed by his sudden exit. The FIA, as we know, have also seen Deborah Mayer quit. We've already spoken about that, and the departures are the latest difficulties for the governing body led by Mohammed Ben Salem, and he courted controversy this month by launching an investigation into Toto Wolff and Susie Wolff, which was later dropped. The Wolffs and Mercedes F1 team strongly condemned that investigation. I mean, it's an absolute total mess, isn't it? And here we look back to a story from the 8th of Feb, almost a year ago, 2023, by The Independent, not the only obviously newspaper or news source talking about this, but the FIA boss relinquishes control of F1 operations after a string of controversies. Yes, Mohammed Ben Salem's decision comes after a number of controversial weeks at the helm of the FIA. So, and it goes on to say that under FIA president Mohammed Ben Salem has conceded day-to-day control of Formula One. The 61-year-old shock decision comes after a number of controversial weeks at the helm of motorsport, including the threat of legal action from Formula One and the exposure of historical sexist remarks on his now defunct personal website. The FIA, which governs F1, instructs Ben Salem's move, has long been in the pipeline and follows restructuring of the organisation after essentially John Todd left in 2021. But his revelation in a letter to the sports team principals and F1 bosses on the Monday, this was, remember, back in February 2023, that the FIA's Director of Single-Seater Racing, Nicholas Tobias, should now be their main contract. This has sent ripples around the grid at the time, with the new season less than a month away at the time of the story. Salem, who obviously, and to this day, remains in charge of Formula One, was centre stage in F1 last season, sitting with the drivers in the moments before the races and handing out trophies at a number of Grand Prix. And he still very much is, I think, centre stage when you look at some of the people he has snapped with. And I guess why not? He is the head of the FIA, but his controversies, even since February, have potentially continued. Once again, the Toto Wolff one. So, but to be fair to him, okay, he's kind of had a say. I don't know. I mean, we've got here from racefans.net, friction between F1 and FON is sometimes healthy. And this is basically, essentially, from the 8th of January this morning, as you can see here, posted at midnight. So in the roundup, Mohammed Ben Salem says it is healthy for there to be some friction between the FIA and FOM. And in brief, the president says it's natural for there to be some tension between Formula One as an organisation and its governing body. Sometimes, yes, there was tension, for example, between Bernie Ecclestone and Max Mosley. But asked about the relationship between the two bodies, Ben told Motorsport magazine that the FIA wants clarity and fairness in all the dealings with the sport's commercial rights holders. I'm not involved in the stock price or ticket sales, he said. We just need fairness here. That's my mission, he said. Okay, once again, I kind of bring him back to the Toto Wolff situation. But he says we define clarity between ourselves and FOM, Liberty Media. That's good. We need to understand who I represent. I represent the head of the house. We are not a service provider. I keep saying that, and I believe it. I believe it too. Friction is sometimes healthy to bring out the best. What does he mean by head of the house? He's the boss of all. He's the king. He's the king on the Iron Throne. I don't know, but it's going to be really interesting, isn't it, going into this year, if there's any more controversy. And I suspect if this continues, will he still be the head of the FIA come the end of the F1 season or the end of the year? I don't think he will. If this continues, I don't think he's going to step down anytime soon. What I'm saying is, if this kind of stuff continues at some point, he untenable is a word often used in the media, isn't it? Maybe his position will be untenable and he will have to be forced to step down. Does the FIA need Formula One? Yes. Does F1 need the FIA? I don't think F1 needs the FIA as much as the FIA needs Formula One. So I think we're in for an interesting year if you're into sport F1 politics. It's not really my thing, but it is interesting. It is interesting to watch. So stay tuned here at the Hot Lap. If you made it to the end, you are a champion. Thank you very much. We will speak to you soon.